Hey everybody, welcome back. We are now going to get into using Sitefinity Insight for the first time. At least it's the first time you'll be using the system if you're approaching this the way that we advocate. And that is to start by creating a persona definition in Sitefinity Insight. So if you've followed our past videos, you've understood what a persona is, and you've hopefully got a little bit of that formalized, written down on paper, and materialized for yourself. So you've got some characteristics that you understand about your audience. It's time to make a digital representation of that within Sitefinity Insight. So head on over and log into Sitefinity Insight, and you will have an initial screen that looks a little bit like this. You may only have one environment set up. I'm going to use the sample environment. By the way, you can create your own sample environment to play around with. If it's not there already, you go into administration and you can hit a button to create your own sample environment. That will let you play around, fiddle with, and see some of the settings that are sort of there as a guide. So I'm going to go into the sample environment that I've got set up here, and I'm going to be presented with the initial dashboard. If you're doing this in your environment, chances are this is empty right now. There's no data collected yet. That's okay. On the left-hand menu, we're going to pop that open, and we're going to go down to personas. We're going to click on that. And in this sample environment, there's a few that are already defined. That's sort of good to show us how this works. I'm going to, in this case, it's a tech website. So there are some personas already defined of that nature. I'm going to go and explore the IT manager persona and how that's been set up already. So in this case, it's showing you a sneak peek of what the future will hold for you, some of the data of how this particular persona is interacting with your website. This is an aggregation of all the visits that match this persona and how they're interacting with your website. So all of a sudden you're looking at the consumption of your content and the interaction that they're having with your digital experience on a collection of users, not your entire user base, that are defined by a shared set of characteristics that makes them similar. All right. So let's look at those shared characteristics and how that works. We're going to start by editing this persona. You'll see a screen here that's the same as if you clicked the button to create a new persona. Put in the name of this persona so you have something to reference and refer to. Give it a distinctive characteristic. Describe it very briefly. You're going to have a lot more context and detail in the persona definition that you wrote up separately before you got to this point, right? If you didn't, go back and watch that video. And pop in a photo. Hopefully you did that previously as well. But absolutely, the photo helps when you're using the rest of the system. Just kind of visually recognize which segment is the data is associated with. So it's very helpful to have a photo in there. If you don't have one, go grab one from a stock photo website, and that'll be a lot of help. The big important thing here is this threshold field. So we're going to be showing you in a moment, I'm going to be showing you in a moment how rules get created that assign points to each anonymous user or even a known contact, but each visitor on your website is going to be given points based on their activity. And the number of points that you allocate for each activity can vary, and we'll get into that in a second. But as soon as the total points for any given visitor exceeds this threshold, that means we have confidence that they belong within this audience segment. So don't worry about what this threshold actually is. Put in 100. It's a good number. It gives us lots of room, and we'll continue from there. So we'll save those details. We've got a threshold of 100. And if we scroll down on this persona screen, there's a bunch of rules here. You can see a few set up already. So if this particular, in this particular case, if a user comes into our Quantum website, demo site, and they visit the news, chances are they're a manager, or they might be a manager. So for every time that they do that, for the first time that they do that, we're going to give them 20 points. If they register for an event, we'll give them 20 points. These are activities that likely suggest, but don't definitely suggest that this person is a manager. If they visit the events section, we'll give them 30 points. And if they download that PDF, that Enterprise Solutions PDF, it's going to be a much stronger cue that they are likely an IT manager. We're going to give somebody 50 points in that case. So in order to qualify for belonging to this persona, they have to do enough of these activities that add up to our threshold that we defined earlier of 100 points. So in this case, they have to at least download the PDF, they have to check out the events, and they also have to visit the news or register for our webinar. In total, that will add up to 100 points, and we can start tracking them in this persona. There's a whole bunch of other rules you can define. If you click on add a rule and you click on the definition, you can set up rules based on the pages they visit, even any UTM parameters that they have, whether they submitted a form, whether they came from another website or logged in. You can explore all these interactions, and you can also add your own interactions into this list, which is super powerful. When they visit the page, let's say they visit the contact page, is it the exact URL or part of a URL? So that can be very handy if you've got a blog and you want to make sure that any visit to any article on the blog counts towards this condition, then you're going to match part of the URL. At that point, we've created the rule, but now we're going to assign points. And if you have more than one persona, or if you want that activity to be attributed to more than one persona, you can absolutely add several here and manage the allocation of points all at once. So in this case, if they visit the Contact Us page, we're going to give them 75 points. And you can do that once or every time they take that action. So this can be helpful if you want to assign a smaller threshold. So for every time they read one of your blog post articles, you'll give them in a certain category, let's say. You build a rule that matches for that, you give them 10 points every time. If they read 10 articles, wow, they're really engaged. And if it's a particular blog that you've identified, that might give a signal that they are absolutely, or they're likely an IT manager. They read enough articles, yeah, let's qualify them. So there's some real powerful stuff you can do here. It is possible to also subtract points from a visitor. So we have found a lot of times that people who are looking for a job will spend a lot of time all over your website, and they'll often throw off the persona definition. So they might show up and start exploring a particular section of your website that suggests they are a manager, and then they actually end up on the career section and into the job details. So what they were doing is some research, and as soon as they hit that career section, we go, oh, wait a minute. We thought they were a manager, but as soon as they hit that career section, we know they're actually a job seeker, and we don't want to market to them in the way we would an actual manager. So on that single action alone, if they hit that, zero out their qualification for this persona and stop tracking them. So some really powerful stuff you can do here. That's how you set up a persona. The reason you want to do that is because now you can start to get a sense of how your content is being consumed by subsets of your traffic, not just overall visitor segment as an entirety. And then there's a lot further you can do with that. You can personalize your content in Sitefinity based on matching those personas. All right, thanks for following. This is going to be the most powerful thing you do in Sitefinity Insights. We want to make sure it was well understood. Next video we're going to do is get in a little bit deeper on conversions and journey mapping and the rest of the exploration here. So we'll see you on that one. Cheers.